poverty and what can be done about it by Cecilia Boitis. What is poverty? Poverty is a state in which income is insufficient to provide for the basic necessities like food, shelter, clothing, and Medicare. And according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, 36.5 million American families live in poverty each year in 2012 statistics. That's one in every 8 children who are impoverished. The Department of Agriculture has developed a formula to calculate a baseline of what they think is the minimum income a family should have. They have also theorized that a typical family spends about one-third of their income on food. They call this the Economy Food Plan. A fun fact about the Department of Agriculture is that it was established by Abraham Lincoln in 1862, and it was to be headed by a commissioner without cabinet status. The poverty threshold, or poverty line as we know it, is the minimum level of income that a family needs to buy the necessities like food and housing. The U.S. government takes the cost that the Department of Agriculture has formulated of the Economy Food Plan and multiplies it by 3. This is the established amount that should be spent on food. And they use this amount to help establish what the poverty line or poverty threshold should be for any given year. The poverty level for families in 2012, according to the U.S. Census, the family was built around 3.14 people, with 0.9 being a child. As you can see, the average threshold of a family of 3, or the poverty line for a family of 3, was $18,284, and that their income for the same family of 3 was $18,480. Now that's a difference of $196. But remember, these guidelines are based on a family of 3 and not 3.4. So does the average American family really have anything left over? And this is what the government thinks that they need to live on. What causes poverty? Well, poverty is caused by the social structures, and social structures include the political decision-making of our government, the class composition, and government, and who benefits from government programs. Social structures also include poverty in the economy, patterns of life, and education of the poor. The social psychological factors include disparagement and discrimination, and ideology of wealth and power, and the public policy and private action. Is poverty considered a social problem? Well, Americans don't see poverty as a social problem. And the one reason is because the poor are invisible to our American society. They only think as the poor as being in other countries besides America. Because America is a great land, and how could we have anyone living in poverty here? What are some of the consequences of poverty if it should continue? Well, according to Poverty at Large, a dark spot in humanity, consequences of poverty are high infant mortality and high annual death rate, increases in hygiene and diet-related diseases, increases in crime rate since desperate people do desperate things. Just recently, I read an article about a woman who went to the grocery store and stole groceries to feed her family. They were that hungry that she was actually stealing groceries. And an increased rate for homeless people. Who benefits from poverty? I took a lot of thought for this question, a lot of research, and I concluded that it's the rich who benefit from poverty. And why is that? Well, the rich can hire poor workers and they can be paid for less, making their profits greater. Good old capitalism. And some of these examples include workers who work in sweatshops and field workers. They benefit because the poor are easier to take advantage of because they're uneducated. According to the National Institute, literacy estimates that 43% of every adult in poverty has very low reading skills. And if these people who are in poverty feel something is wrong or know something is wrong, they lack the resources to fight against big business. Well, what can be done for poverty? I have proposed three solutions to poverty, and the first solution would be increasing the minimum wage to what has been kind of called the living wage. And according to the Los Angeles County Living Wage Calculator, the minimum wage needed to have a comfortable life in LA County is $11.37. Well, the minimum wage is $8, so that's about $3.37 less an hour than what they're actually getting. $3.65 was actually the minimum wage when I was started working, so it's really not that much. This $3.37 equals to about a little over $7,000 more a year. And what will this $7,000 do? What will this $3.37 do to the poor and to the economy? Well, it will give them money, more money to spend. They'll have more money to go out and buy clothes or the luxuries like a bicycle, a television set, all the stuff that maybe on the $8 an hour they couldn't afford to buy. And they're going to have this money, and they're going to spend it, and they're going to stimulate the economy. Just a couple of years ago, George Bush did something like giving rebate checks to stimulate the economy. So when you have more money to spend, you spend it, and it helps, helps the economy, helps businesses. It's just good all the way around. This extra money will help them afford housing, so we'll have less homeless people. They'll be able to have the house with the lights and the gas and a place to call their own. And this kind of leads into my second solution, which is to help the poor become educated. Education, to me, is the key to everything. A good education is a good step. It's not the only step, but it's a good step. The poor dropout rate for 16 to 24-year-old students who come from low-income families is seven times more likely to drop out than those families with higher incomes. Children who are living in poverty, they miss more school. They have, which makes it hard for them to even get a high school diploma. And I know a couple of kids who've done this. They've dropped out of school because they need to go help support their families, to pay the rent, to stay in the house. A higher percentage of young adults are graduating. 31% are graduating without high school diplomas. And what does that mean? They're going to live in poverty. How do we need to help them? We need to reduce barriers. We need to show them, teach them, make them aware of the different types of financial aid that are out there for them, the Pell Grant, the BOG waivers for community colleges, the Cal Grants, loans, that low interest loans. Let them know that they can go to school and not really have a large debt. You can go to community college if you're impoverished and basically for free, and probably even get some money back. I don't think they know that. But if they do figure that out, getting these grants are very difficult. I've done it myself. I have 3 kids. We went through the process. They make it as hard as possible. We need to teach them to stay with it. We need to take away these barriers that make the process difficult for applying for financial aid. Prospect.org reports that 1 year of school helped raise the welfare recipients' earnings by 7%. 7%, that's a lot of money back into the economy, a lot of money for the families. The third process that I think will help stop poverty is equal pay for women. And a recent article in the Huffington Post reports that 4.1 million single mothers and their families are living in poverty. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. If they can make the same amount of money as their male counterparts, there would be less families living in poverty. The National Organization for Women report that women are still segregated into pink-collar jobs. And what are these pink-collar jobs? They're jobs that are typically women's jobs, like child care, like health aid industry, like dental assistants. And what do all these jobs have? They have the stigma of low-paying jobs. We need to help women break the barriers that are keeping them in poverty. Teach them, give them help if they need it. Some women need transportation. Some women need clothes. Give them child care. Help these single mothers break what is coined as the chain of poverty. Help them find a way out, not only for themselves but for their families. They'll teach their children that they too can get an education and lead the way, and eventually and hopefully we will be able to have more people out of poverty than what we have in poverty. Thank you.